Here we are in Jackson Heights. This is one end of the IBX. The tracks are down there. You can sort of see them. Yep, there's the tracks. I'm going to take you on the whole route of the IBX all the way towards Brooklyn.
The IBX is going to be New York's first train line in many years, connecting Brooklyn and Queens. It's potentially going to look like this, and it may also help solve our housing crisis because the areas around a lot of the stations can be built up a little more, kind of to look like this, which would enable a lot of new housing in the city. The line starts here at Roosevelt Avenue, which is a major subway hub with 5 different lines and a bunch of buses. This is where a lot of people are going to transfer to the subway to other parts of Queens or Manhattan. But there's unfortunately a catch, which is the actual station for the line is a few blocks away under a highway bridge. And I'm going to show you how long that walk is. It's a bit of a hike. So the MTA has a couple of options. They could build a raised walkway. They could make people walk along the street, which would be not so great. They could dig a tunnel. It'll be really interesting to see how they connect these two stations, which you can see are going to be a little far apart.
And now I'm here on what's called Diversity Plaza here in Jackson Heights. And you could do some sort of connection to this subway entrance over here, but it's going to take some digging and it's going to take some building.
So here's the first part of the line, and it goes through a neighborhood in Queens called Maspeth, which is sort of a hole in the subway map as it is now. Maspeth is really close to Manhattan, but it's really difficult to get to and from without a car right now. And the IBX is going to solve that problem by connecting what's one end of the M train line to the main subway branch in Queens. There's an interesting cultural problem here, too, which is that the train goes from this blue area through this red area to this other blue area. And the red area is the low density area, which might be able to take more housing. But it's a genuine question whether the people in the red area want the greater connectivity or more housing. So here's a zoom on the way the route is going to go. It follows an old freight train line, and the first 2 stops I went to are at Grand Avenue and Eliot Avenue in the Middle Village area near Maspeth. The existing tracks mostly look like this, and you're going to see a lot of that throughout this video. These tracks running under various avenues and streets. And as you can see, the Grand Avenue area, it's a commercial area, but it's very low-lying. It's very automotive-oriented. As you can see, there's a strip mall sort of a block away. It has a very kind of quasi-suburban town center vibe, although it is very much in the middle of Queens, just a few miles from Manhattan, just a few miles from much denser areas. And one of the things I like to think about is, could this be built up in part to help with New York City's housing crisis once this has a 5-minute, nearly instant train connection to the Roosevelt Avenue hub? So there is some residential around here. You can see these little apartment buildings a couple of blocks away from the train station. But it's a generally quiet, low-lying area. And there's a really nice park across the street, across Grand Avenue, Elmhurst Park, which is the former site of the Elmhurst gas tanks, which stored natural gas for a lot of Queens. But now they're gone, and it's a relatively well-used public park that people, of course, will be able to access using the new IBX line. So now we're at Eliot Avenue, and this is probably one of the quietest stops on the IBX line. You can see it's another really low-lying neighborhood, little houses in the distance, Chase Bank branch with a big parking lot. Now we're going to walk up to that bridge that the train line runs under, and we'll get to see the tracks in a second. Give it a second. Yep. So now we're walking up to the bridge. You can see these little 2-family houses in the distance. This is the Eliot Avenue station. And if you look over here, you see the overgrown freight tracks that still take a couple of trains a day, but they would have trains every few minutes with IBX. Now, this is also across from a really nice park. It's part of Juniper Valley Park, a big park for athletics. And one of the things I really like about this route actually is how many parks this gives people access to. So now we get to Metropolitan Avenue, and the most important thing about this stop is that it connects to the M train and it closes the loop that's been missing in the subway system. There's also an Amazon warehouse here, and there's a large parochial school, and there's most notably a whole bunch of cemeteries. And the cemeteries are important because they are the biggest trouble that this route is going to have construction wise. In that, the route has to go in a little tunnel under one of these cemeteries, or it would get stuck in street running. Now, the street is really crowded. This would slow down the train. So, figuring out how to tunnel under the cemetery is absolutely key. So now we get to Myrtle Avenue, and there's a big cultural shift. Myrtle Avenue is Ridgewood, and that's a neighborhood which has previously been a working class immigrant neighborhood, but now it's getting very hipster. There's a lot of younger professional people moving in here. Some call that gentrification. The next couple of stops are going to be in these more hipster neighborhoods on the border of Brooklyn and Queens. And one of the things, though, is that you could say that the relatively poor transit connections may be one of the things that made this neighborhood affordable for hipsters. And so we enter that question of affordability. See, look at that alternative bookshop. It's so hipster. So we enter this question of affordability of now that these neighborhoods become more accessible, what are we going to do about the housing shortage to make sure that they continue to be affordable? And that is something that's on absolutely everybody's mind. And I'm sure it's on the mind of people here in Ridgewood as they enjoy these nice little shops and their nice little semi built up area. Now the train is going to follow a conduit next to the L train tracks for several stops. At the moment, we're in Bushwick, which is another formerly working class area, now known for having a lot of hipsters. We'll walk a little down the street. I'll try to find you a hipster business. So this part of Brooklyn has relatively good connections to Manhattan using the L train. And see, you can see the freight tracks there behind that playground. That's what the IBX is going to run on. But it doesn't have this connection to Queens that the IBX would provide. And so one of the questions here is the IBX going to unlock new utility by giving people in this part of Brooklyn access to Jackson Heights, access to whatever is on the train lines that go into Jackson Heights? Basically, the greater connectivity, is that going to bring greater opportunity? Now the line makes its way through Brooklyn along the L train before branching off again in an industrial part of Canarsie. Now, these neighborhoods it's going through now are lower income, very working class industrial neighborhoods, and they have connectivity to Manhattan, as you can see, but they don't have connectivity to Queens or the other parts of Brooklyn that the IBX is going to provide. So the question comes up, is that going to create greater opportunity for folks in Brownsville? This stop is Atlantic Avenue, East New York, which is really close to the big East New York subway hub. And it's where a lot of different kinds of transit join. There's the A train, the J train, the Long Island Railroad. It is also just this terrifying roller coaster like assemblage of different lines and industrial creations that is kind of really just gritty and a little unpleasant to walk around. But they've been building up both office buildings and housing around this hub. And it'll be really interesting to see if the IBX brings greater opportunity to the people in this neighborhood, or if they're just going to use the transit hub to get from Queens to other parts of Brooklyn. Now we're walking through industrial East New York, and you can see it's a really gritty area of the city. There's a lot of automotive related businesses here. There's some recycling scrapyard type businesses. You see some low income apartment buildings in the distance. And this already has that big transit hub at East New York. So it'll be interesting to see how the IBX changes this, if at all, because the neighborhood is already pretty well connected and is still pretty gritty. We're walking down now past the Sutter Avenue and Livonia Avenue train stations, which are a tidy little two-family house part of East New York. You can see all these cute little houses. And these are already served by the L train. So once again, I don't see how necessarily the IBX is going to make a huge difference in the connectivity of this area, except it's providing that lateral connectivity. Oh, whoa, what's that? Hey, somebody's got the 12-foot Home Depot skeleton. That's awesome. So now let's ride the L train for a bit, and we'll get to the Linden Boulevard station, where they are building things up. Once again, there's an L train stop here, and that conduit there holds both the L train and the new IBX. And one thing I wasn't thinking about is how much the IBX is going to give people options across Brooklyn. To cross Brooklyn, then take some of the other train lines through Brooklyn, which will enable much more networky connectivity through the borough, because most of the trains right now just go to Manhattan. Now we're in Canarsie. We are going to the Remsen Avenue station, and you can see this is a really low-lying, very automotive-oriented neighborhood. There is not a subway station very near here, so this is the kind of neighborhood that could, once again, really be activated by the presence of a new train line. And I'm walking into the strip mall here, and you can tell that this is a very sort of suburban middle America style strip mall with a big parking lot in the middle and a bunch of businesses, very much assuming that I think everybody who comes here, or at least most of the people who come here, are going to be coming by car. There's also a huge industrial flower and food market here, the Brooklyn Terminal Market, and that's kind of cool. Now things get much busier, and the train becomes this crosstown connector across Brooklyn. As you can see, Brooklyn has a bunch of subway lines that go to Manhattan north-south, but it doesn't have anything that goes east-west. And so what the IBX is going to do here is it's going to connect all of these lines east-west, enabling this more grid-type networked connectivity through the center of Brooklyn. And the neighborhoods are cool too. Then something really special happened.
Hey, I am on the IBX at Utica Avenue right now, which is really surreal. I found some stairs to come up here, and there's a little bit of a platform and some tracks, and yeah, I'm waiting for the train. Might be a couple years, but I'm waiting for the train. Hey, little guy, what do you think of the IBX? What do you think about the train? Don't really care, huh? Yeah, I don't have any food for you.
The area around the Utica Avenue stop in Brooklyn is just another low-lying, quasi-industrial area with a lot of single-story retail. It really could be somewhere in Middle America, and I think there needs to be a lot more development here.
I'm here at what I think is going to be the entrance to the Nostrand station, which is right below a shopping center parking garage. And I think this is going to be one of the busiest stations in the system. It's right by Brooklyn College. There's an entire shopping center on top of it. There's food, there's shopping, there's high density residential. This is a real hub station here that does not exist. And now the Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn College area is a real hub. There's a university here, there's businesses, there's high density residential. This is really a spot where you're really delivering people to. So it's just a really big, pretty campus, and it's now accessible to a lot more people because of the IBX, which is great. And now we're getting into a more uniformly high density and kind of gentrifying part of Brooklyn. And there are subways here. All the stops are going to connect to subway stops. And this is more about just giving lateral connectivity to already pretty well connected neighborhoods. And now we're in Midwood, this just gorgeous neighborhood of huge historic homes and tree-lined streets and classic 1920s, 1930s apartment buildings. So the next IBX stop is by the Avenue 8 station on the Q train, which is this incredibly cute little station house that's like from a suburban rail line, but in the middle of Brooklyn. And the IBX train is just down the block here. So these could be
pretty easily connected, or it's just like a half-block walk between the trains. And this street end here, between some apartment buildings, is potentially where you could come up and down from the IBX down there and then walk down the block to the Q train. Very cute area. So the next stop is near Ocean Parkway, which is this beautiful tree-lined boulevard of high-rises and a lot of Uzbek Orthodox Jews, actually. Okay, so now we're at McDonald Avenue, and we're under the F train, and it's cut off by a wall, but you can see we could come up to the street here. The immediate businesses are kind of grim auto-related stuff, but there's so much goodness in terms of shopping centers and high-rise developments just a few blocks away. McDonald Avenue is kind of the heart of Hasidic Midwood, it looks like, and connects to the F train here. I don't know if there'll be able to be a direct connection or if you'll have to walk down the block. Okay, so here we are at New Utrecht, near the 62nd Street D train station. We're about a block away from that. Most of these stations appear to be about a block away. And then down there's the tracks, of course. And it looks a little junky where this thing is immediately, but let me show you something.
You walk just down the block and you see this gigantic synagogue. And now, if you think about the big community center that we saw at McDonald Avenue, you get an idea of the IBX knitting together this particular community within Brooklyn in a way that's more efficient than using a lot of buses.
Now, for a while, the train is going to share a conduit with the N train, and that's how we get to the 8th Avenue stop, with Fort Hamilton Parkway being in the middle.
8th Avenue is the thriving Brooklyn Chinatown. This area is vibrant, it's full of street life, it's full of businesses. This is really a destination for a lot of people. It's got a great vibe, and now the people here are going to be able to go across Brooklyn rather than just going north and south.
And so now we're getting into Bay Ridge, where things are much more Yemeni, as you can see.
In my mind, one of the greatest things about the IBX is how it connects communities. And you see it connecting these Jewish and Arab and Chinese and African American communities throughout Brooklyn.
The 4th Avenue stop has plenty of room for people to walk up onto this walkway between 65th and 66th Streets. But you really can't see the tracks below because of all this decking. It's a nice park here, some high rises.
Here I am at the Brooklyn Army Terminal, the end of the road.
We've reached the final stop, the Brooklyn Army Terminal, a massive industrial campus of buildings, and which is definitely an economic center. Good place to end your railway line. I think I'm going to go get on a ferry.
And that's where we're going to end things. Please like and comment if you have any questions. I would love to talk about this more. Thanks.